playoff hopes teeter on a razor's edge in Detroit. The NFC North is a battlefield where every move means survival or extinction. And the Lions have a history that haunts every moment. Barry Sanders walking away too soon. Calvin Johnson forced into retirement. The soul-crushing 0-16 season that felt like eternal winter. After last year's surge back into relevance, fans crave that spark, that aggressive front office fire. Something worthy of this city's grit and grind, even if it means shaking up the roster in ways that make Twitter blow up. Yet as the trade deadline slammed shut, the question burned hotter than Ford Field on a primetime night: where was the big splash? The bold move that separates dividers from pretenders? The Packers, Vikings, even Bears, they all made calculated moves to bolster their roster. Green Bay snapped up talent to plug leaks and pressure quarterbacks. Minnesota added weapons to keep pace. Chicago gambled on youth and promise. Meanwhile, Detroit stood quietly on the sideline. No Trey Hendrickson from Cincinnati, no Jermaine Johnson from the Jets, no Joel Bitonio or Wyatt Teller from Cleveland's shopping list. No jaw-dropping trade, flipping the script midseason. Was Dan Campbell's famously aggressive mindset on ice? Or was this tactical patience masked as an action? What does this mean for the defense leaking points like it's a faucet stuck open, and the offensively thin line struggling to hold the front? This is Lions News Fan Report, your pulse on every beat of this franchise's fight. If you bleed Honolulu blue, if you tailgated through every wipeout and wake-up win, hit that subscribe button and turn the volume up. Detroit needs us loud now more than ever. Breaking down the stunned silence after the deadline, Detroit chose not to pursue edge rusher Jermaine Johnson, a former first-round pick and Pro Bowler spotlighted during New York's dismantling of their defense, or the multiple-time Pro Bowl guards Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller, who were rumored on the trade market from Cleveland. These names weren't just names. They could have been game-changers. Reinforcements capable of stabilizing a defense hemorrhaging pressure, and a bulldozed offensive line stretched dangerously thin after Christian Mahogany's Week 9 broken ankle. Instead, the Lions added rookie guard Jack Conley to the practice squad, signaling a reliance on internal depth to patch gaping holes depth already paper-thin and unproven. This decision defies Dan Campbell's public profile as the NFL's most fiery, risk-taking coach. Last year's blockbuster trade to bring in Zadarius Smith proved that Detroit isn't afraid to get aggressive when stakes demand it. So why freeze now? Injuries have peeled back the facade of this roster's resilience. Fans rightly wonder if the front office's inactivity is a misstep or a calculated gamble banking on growth from within. The Lions' defense is stuck between the pass rush of last season's glory and underperforming secondary units riddled with injuries and lack of star power at critical positions. Offensively, floating rookies to replace an injured Mahogany on a line that was already less dominant is a stark gamble too. The ripple effects through the NFC North are unforgiving. The Vikings loomed large last Sunday with a 20-13 win in Detroit, snapping momentum and exposing vulnerabilities. Green Bay's shrewd acquisitions keep Aaron Rodgers' hungry weapons singing, while Chicago's youth movement threatens to upset the balance with fresh legs and fearless pass rush. Detroit sits at 5-3, but looks shaky, despite the 8.5-point favoritism facing a Washington Commanders squad playing without QB Jaden Daniels. If Campbell's Lions can't rotate improving talent before the stretch run, it's a tall order to expect this team to hold lead or close out tight games against division rivals hungry for tarnished crown glory. The Lions' defense lacked that decisive edge, and explosive power Jermaine Johnson would have answered that directly. The Bucs not spent on Bitonio or Teller leave the offensive line vulnerable at a crucial stretch, forcing Tristan Colon or Kingsley Aguakun to plug in the starting roles under pressure. It's a long road ahead with a thin roster hanging in the balance. Detroit fans remember the heartbreak, losing a legend to retirement, watching playoff windows close too quickly, suffering humiliating losing streaks that broke the city's spirit. But this team has also shown it can fight. There's still time for a late roar. We aren't just talking wins and losses. This is about identity. It's about proving the Lions can be more than the sum of past disappointments and unfulfilled promises. The question Detroit fans must ask themselves now: does the front office's quiet approach signal confidence in the homegrown talent? Or is it a dangerous gamble that will cost them the playoff race and the fragile momentum built in consecutive NFC North titles? The Ford Field faithful deserve answers, and the clock is ticking louder than ever. Does Dan Campbell's culture of aggression extend beyond the sidelines to the boardroom? Or are we facing a winter where the Lions once again fall short because they refuse to shake things up? If there's one thing fans know, it's this silence breeds doubt, and the Lions have lived too long with that pain. How do you see this move or non-move reshaping Detroit's destiny? Is patience a virtue, or just another missed chance to change the course of this storied franchise? Get loud in the comments below. We're Lions, we're fighters, and the fight is far from over. What if the Lions' silent approach isn't just about patience? What if it's a calculated ploy to keep opponents guessing? To conserve cap space for a winter blitz? Rumors swirl that Detroit's front office is quietly exploring a big-name splash if they're right. Opportunity arises in the near future. Could these non-moves be part of a larger chess game where Detroit waits for the perfect moment to blow? Up the market, flipping the script just when everyone expects them to fold? Or are they gambling on internal development so heavily that if it backfires, the season could slip through their fingers with no safety net, leaving fans to wonder whether this was a strategic risk or just stubbornness at play? The absence of a game-changing edge rusher like Jermaine Johnson leaves the Lions' pass rush more pedestrian than last year's explosive unit, especially critical with no immediate replacement at the lineup. This pits Detroit's defense against NFC North rivals who are stockpiling talent, and could be the reason Aaron Rodgers, still throwing darts, finds more daylight and quick escapes. The ripple effect? The secondary, already compromised by injury, faces increased pressure, forcing rookies or unproven backups into duties that could cost crucial games down the stretch, yet insiders hint Detroit might be banking on internal growth, confident that a Hayden Hutchinson and James Houston can ramp up pass rush production without external help. But that's the move that could flip the season upside down. On offense, the decision to rely on rookie guard Jack Conley and promote untested talent like Kingsley Eagle-Coon signals a gamble that Detroit's line can hold up. But Mahogany's untimely injury, just as the playoff push heats up, shows how thin this squad truly is. With cap constraints and minimal reinforcements, questions swirl about whether Jared Goff will have the time to operate or if the Lions will be left scrambling, especially with defenses knowing this offense's vulnerabilities. It's a mental and tactical tortoise and hare race. And if the line falters even once against the NFC North's fierce pass rusher, the damage could be permanent, pushing Detroit closer to a season-ending avalanche. Yet insiders suggest this internal trust could ignite a fiery breakthrough, that the young guards are ready to step up just when it counts. The Vikings, fresh off their gritty 20-13 victory over Detroit, are now salivating with confidence, knowing the Lions' defense has weaknesses that can be exploited, especially with the secondary's injuries and a shaky pass rush trying to find its form. Meanwhile, Green Bay's aggressive moves in past days with key signings tighten the noose on Detroit's postseason hopes, making every head-to-head a must-win. These rivals aren't just watching. They're sharpening their knives, and with Chicago's youthful threat blitzing with fearless energy, Detroit's window for a division crown narrows. Every misstep in these closing weeks could prove costly if the front office remains on ice instead of firing up the roster's gas pedal. That's precisely the cliffhanger. Are the Lions simply waiting for a game-changing moment? Or do the rivals see an opening to pounce before it's too late? And that's the risk that keeps Detroit's playoff dreams on a knife's edge. With Detroit sitting at 5-3, just outside the top playoff seeds, every game gets more brutal from here on out, especially against teams like Washington, who might be hunting for a late-season upset, even without their starting QB. Fans already feel the nervous energy in Ford Field, knowing that if Detroit can't tighten up the front, find a way to generate pressure, hide the gaps, those winning margins evaporate faster than a tailgate cooler at noon. The decision to keep this roster intact without adding the pro threat of Jermaine Johnson or veteran guards might come back to haunt them, especially if the offense stalls or the secondary leaks yardage in crunch time. The question lingers, is this strategic patience or a gamble so dangerous it might destroy Detroit's playoff shot before it truly starts? To heat up and the clock says we're running out of runway? Detroit's haunted past Barry Sanders walking away, Calvin forced out, and that hellish 0-16 season still echoes in every decision made at Ford Field. The franchise's resilience was built on grit, but also on bold moves, on daring to shake things up when everything was on the line. Last year's surge hinted at a Detroit renaissance, but this quiet deadline feels like a warning sign. Are they learning from their history or repeating it? Because if this roster continues to leak and underperform, the ghosts of seasons past will come knocking, reminding us once again that Detroit doesn't get second chances, not in the playoffs, not in the division, and certainly not in the minds of battered fans who demand fireworks. Honestly, I'm pissed. You see all these rivals grabbing proven vets, making their move, and Detroit stands still like they're scared of the moment. It's infuriating because we all know this team's got talent. But talent means nothing if the front office refuses to back it up when it counts. We're talking about playoff blood, and right now, it feels like they're betting on internal growth. Sure, that's bold, but it's also reckless as hell when every game could be your last. And if this approach blows up in their faces, we've got no one to blame but ourselves for sitting on our hands. I want the Lions to shock everyone, prove they have the guts to finish this season like true champions. But right now, I'm not sure if we're players or just spectators watching our window close again. So Lions faithful, it's time to get loud. This season's not over until it's over. We bleed Honolulu blue. We fight with relentless grit, and we refuse to fade into the background. One pride stays united, no matter how dark the winter ahead might look. Stand up, raise your voice, and show Detroit that we're not just fans, we're the backbone of this franchise's future. Because if we don't hold the line now, who will? We're driven by heart, fueled by grit, so let's make sure everyone knows that when the OL Motor City roars, it's with the fire of champions. And remember, the fight never ends at Ford Field, because this is Lions country, and we're in it to the last drop of blue blood.